The Battle of Megiddo, Thutmose III's defining triumph, 1457 BCE. A young pharaoh's challenge. The golden sands of Egypt shimmered under an unforgiving sun as Pharaoh Thutmose III, now in his early 20s, stood atop the palace walls of Thebes. For years, he had watched from the shadows as his stepmother Hatshepsut ruled Egypt with wisdom and prosperity. But now, with her passing, the weight of the double crown rested solely on his brow. The news brought by his scouts was troubling. A coalition of rebellious Canaanite kings, led by the defiant ruler of Kadesh, had gathered at Megiddo, the gateway to Syria, and were preparing to throw off Egyptian rule. Thutmose clenched his fists. This was his moment, not just to prove himself as a true pharaoh, but to secure Egypt's northern borders forever. He turned to his war council, his voice steady with resolve. Prepare the army. We march to Megiddo, the march north. In late April of 1457 BCE, the greatest military force Egypt had ever assembled began its march. 20,000 men, seasoned infantry, swift charioteers, and deadly archers moved in disciplined columns along the coastal road of Canaan. Thutmose, riding in his golden chariot at the head of the column, knew speed was essential. Every day allowed the rebels more time to fortify their position. As they approached the Carmel mountain range, three possible routes to Megiddo presented themselves. The northern and southern paths were wide and safe, but predictable. The central route, the Aruna Pass, was a narrow, treacherous defile, perfect for an ambush. Thutmose's generals urged caution, arguing for the safer paths. But the young pharaoh saw what they did not. The element of surprise was worth any risk. I shall take the Aruna road myself, Thutmose declared, and my army will follow. The gods favor the bold. That night, as campfires flickered in the Canaanite hills, the rebels waited confidently along the expected routes, never imagining the Egyptians would dare the dangerous pass. The gamble through Aruna. At dawn, the Egyptian vanguard entered the Aruna Pass single file, their armor scraping against the narrow rock walls. For an entire day, the army snaked through the defile, every man expecting an attack that never came. Thutmose, at the front, emerged onto the plains of Esdraelon to see Megiddo's walls gleaming in the distance, and the stunned faces of enemy scouts who immediately galloped back to warn their masters. The rebel coalition, caught completely unprepared, scrambled to form battle lines on the hills outside Megiddo. Their forces numbered nearly 15,000, a mix of Canaanite infantry, Syrian chariots, and mercenaries from distant lands. But they had one fatal weakness. Their lines were hastily assembled, their commanders arguing over strategy even as the Egyptians deployed. The battle is joined. On the morning of May 9, 1457 BCE, Thutmose arrayed his forces in a revolutionary crescent formation. The center, composed of elite chariots with Thutmose himself at their head, would deliver the decisive blow. The infantry wings would envelop the enemy. As the war horn sounded, Egyptian archers unleashed volley after volley, their arrows darkening the sky. The Canaanite chariots charged first, but the soft ground of the valley hampered their speed. Thutmose's chariots, lighter and more maneuverable, cut through them like a sickle through wheat. Then came the moment of legend. Seeing a gap in the enemy lines, Thutmose personally led the charge straight toward the rebel command group. His golden armor flashed in the sun as his chariot smashed into their ranks, his khopesh sword cutting down any who stood before him. Panic spread through the coalition forces. The king of Kadesh fled first, his royal chariot abandoning the field. Within hours, what had been an orderly retreat became a rout as thousands of rebels streamed toward Megiddo's gates. But here, fate intervened. Instead of pursuing the broken enemy, many Egyptian soldiers stopped to plunder the abandoned Canaanite camp, their discipline undone by the sight of gold and rich weapons. The siege begins. Thutmose, surveying the scene from his chariot, watched in fury as the last rebels scrambled into Megiddo. Had my army not set their hearts on plunder, he would later inscribe at Karnak, they would have captured Megiddo in this very hour. Now, the city's massive bronze gates slammed shut against him. For 7 long months, the Egyptians besieged Megiddo. Thutmose ordered a massive wooden palisade built around the city. Thutmose the Seeger encircles the foreigners, his troops called it. Inside, conditions grew desperate as food stores dwindled. Finally, in December, the gates creaked open. The surviving defenders, emaciated and broken, crawled forth to kiss the earth before Pharaoh's feet. Triumph and legacy. The spoils were staggering. 924 chariots, including 8 covered in gold, 2,238 horses, 200 suits of bronze armor, and enough grain to feed Thebes for a year. More importantly, Thutmose took the sons of every Canaanite ruler as hostages to ensure future loyalty. The victory stela erected at Karnak would immortalize every detail, from the weight of captured gold to the names of 119 conquered cities. But beyond the plunder, Megiddo marked a turning point in military history. Thutmose had demonstrated the power of speed, surprise, and psychological warfare, lessons future conquerors from Alexander to Napoleon would study. For Egypt, it was the beginning of an empire that would dominate the ancient world for centuries. As Thutmose III rode back to Thebes, the first snows of winter dusting the Lebanon mountains behind him, he knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would lead to the Euphrates, to Nubia's gold mines, and to immortality as Egypt's greatest warrior king. But always, he would remember Megiddo, where a young pharaoh became a legend. The shadow of Armageddon. Centuries later, the valley where Thutmose triumphed would be known by its Greek name, Armageddon, and become synonymous with apocalyptic battles. But no conflict would ever match the brilliance of that day in 1457 BCE, when Egypt's Napoleon first revealed his genius to the world. The echoes of chariot wheels and war horns still seem to whisper across Megiddo's plains, telling the story of history's first recorded great battle and the pharaoh who changed the course of civilization. Don't forget to like, drop comments, share, follow, or subscribe below. Thanks for watching.